Hi, thank you for joining us today. I am Kerry Gillick-Goldberg with KGG Enterprises, and I'm going to be focusing today on mastering PR. And um, Jen, who will introduce herself, is going to be focusing on media training. So I'm all about building relationships with the press and crisis management.
Hi, nice to meet you guys. Thanks for joining us today. And thanks for that, Kerry. My name is Jennifer Oliva. I'm with Jen Oliva Media, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about media training and why it's important for your nonprofits and your nonprofit executives to be prepared. I'll send it to Kerry now.
Wonderful. All right. So bottom line is when you are trying to build relationship with reporters, you have to just remember basic things. People love to do business with people that they like, and also people that make their job easier. So I find that reporters are no different. If you can help them do their story and provide what they need and say yes. I mean, I think saying yes is the most important thing. You provide what they needed more efficiently and with a better attitude than other people. And really, they want to work with you. You want to make sure that your outreach is targeted. Yes, make that phone call, send that text, follow them on social media, but don't stalk them. That's the important thing. Make sure you're not stalking them. Reporters are looking for stories to tell, but they all have their own beat. They all have, things that they are passionate about that they are required to cover. Um, it's really important to remember that their time is not unlimited, just like your time is not unlimited. So don't waste your reporters. Don't just blanket send, emails to everybody about every pitch that you're working on because it's not necessarily relevant. And you want the reporters to want to answer your call. You want them to, the moment they get an email from you, you want them to open that email. So that's really important. If you don't waste their time, they are much more likely to give you support. It's also really important to build with trust and credibility. That's really important. Those reporters want to know that the information you're providing is clear and accurate. And in reality, this isn't any different than what you do in the rest of your life. So they're regular people. One of the things that I'm always shocked about is that people don't say thank you. I find that from reporters all the time. And actually, I was in Tommy D's session before this watching, and they were talking about sending thank yous. And I wanted to say that I do that all the time. The most important thing is that if they're going to be giving you their time, if they're spending, time, energy, their gifts, you have to say thank you. One of the things that I was thinking about is there's this wonderful app called TouchNote that I use, and I'll take a copy of the article or a screenshot from, a TV interview. And what they do is they mail out a postcard with that image and a thank you. And it's amazing how many people obviously don't use snail mail anymore. So when they actually get it, they're blown away. So saying thank you is something that you shouldn't forget. You really have to express your appreciation. Now, once you have these great relationships, you are in a little bit of a better position, God forbid, you have a crisis. And what a lot of people like to say is, well, look, I've never had a problem before. You know, why would I think I'd have one now? But at the end of the day, you have to plan for a crisis. And just because you haven't had one doesn't mean you're not going to have one. So better to know, to be proactive, and to have a plan in place. I always find it best with my clients to create a crisis communication org chart. Now, the reason why I didn't include an actual physical org chart on this presentation is that everybody's company is different. Your business may be run by a CEO. You may have the founder who, started it years ago. You really have to think about who should be at the top of that crisis communication chart, even if it's yourself, if that's something that your client is interested in. But just know, although logically you might think it would be the owner or the founder, many times it's not. Many times they're not, they don't necessarily have what's needed to present to the media well. Now, mind you, if you have this, then it's really important to focus on what Jen is going to cover later because of, media training. Something to become familiar with, it's called the 5 Cs, and it's something that PR people deal with all the time. It's concern, commitment, competency, clarity, and confidence. And who at the organization projects these the best. You want to know, you want to show the reporter and ultimately the audience that you are able and willing to see the crisis through to a resolution. Because there's no point in just saying, hey, look, here's this crisis that we're having, and not have something that you're going to implement to prevent this from happening again. So that's really, really important that they know you're going to stick with it, and there will ultimately be a resolution. You also want to show that you're competent and that the company is competent in managing the situation. There's so many stories that you read, in Newsday, online, about people losing their positions because people didn't trust that they were going to be able to manage the situation. So, an organization's reputation is the most important thing that they have. So you have to make sure that they perceive that you're capable of managing, and also to rebuild that trust among all stakeholders. Clarity is key. Short and sweet. People look for sound bites. So you want to make sure that your messages during a crisis, whether it's to your team, your reporters, customers, you have to be precise. You have to say why it happened. You have to have necessary actions in place, and you have to get your messaging right. You have to make sure that you're all on the same page and that it's tight messaging that's accurate. Being confident is of utmost importance as well. You want them to know that you are assured of yourself, that you want to maintain that trust of your audience. So being confident is something that you have to remember. And one way to ensure that you're going to be more confident is knowing that you already have a crisis management plan in place. And right there, that takes a lot of the panic and anxiety out of the whole situation, and something to remember that confidence goes a long way. I'm now going to give the screen to Jen. And if anybody has any questions at the end, we're going to be doing a Q&A. Also, I am very into developing tailored plans for each individual company, because each company is different. There's no way that someone can just give you a blanket PR plan or crisis plan and think that it would be effective, because you need something tailored just to you. All right, Jen.
Okay. Thank you guys for joining us, and thanks, Kerry, for that. I'm going to give you a little bit of an inside look at what media training is. As Kerry said, it's so important. You only get one chance to make a first impression, as they say, and you want to be prepared. You want the executives at your nonprofit to be prepared if there is a crisis, or if you get that once-in-a-lifetime chance to get that TV interview, to get to push your nonprofit and what you're doing and to sort of increase your exposure, you want to be prepared. First, I want to tell you a little bit about me. My name is Jennifer Oliva. Like I said, I've been a network news producer for more than 20 years at this point, working for everyone from Fox to NBC News and the Today Show. And I now have my own company doing PR and media training, media relations, and publicity for entrepreneurs, small business owners, and nonprofits like yourself. So let me just jump right in and I'll give you a few tips about media training so that you know the importance of it, and what you really can learn in media training to be better prepared. Okay, the very first thing I want to say is that people can be afraid of the media. I don't want you to be afraid of the media. They can be your ally. They can be your partner. And if you're working with them, you're going to increase your exposure and amplify your message. The first thing that we'll talk about now is message. So Kerry mentioned this a little bit ago. Your message is everything. You want to be really clear about what you're representing, who you're helping, who your clients are, what makes you unique, what makes your nonprofit stand out, how you help people in ways that other people don't, and why the media should be interested in you, why what you have is newsworthy or interesting or touches on things that impact people and that there is a need for. Basically, like what makes you stand out. And that's part of what happens when you work with a publicist or someone in media relations. They help you sort of hone your message, which is incredibly important so that you don't get lost in there. Meeting journalists and sitting down and talking to them, whether you're talking to them over the phone and doing a phone interview, whether they are sending a camera crew out to interview you, you want to be prepared. This is the reason that people send their corporate executives for media training. This is the reason people hire publicists, so that when they get that chance, they are prepared and they know what they need to do to make sure that the message about the work that you guys are doing with your nonprofits is getting out there in the right way and hitting the right audience. Here's a couple tips. So we're going to start to kind of get you comfortable, how to look and sound your best on camera. The first thing I want you to do is to breathe. People tend to lock up really quickly when they get in front of a camera. I want you to be yourself, relax, breathe. The person interviewing you wants you to succeed as much as you do. Believe me, it doesn't help them if you are too nervous to say what the importance that your nonprofit is doing, to talk about that. They want you to succeed just as much as you do. Knowledgeable and relatable. Okay, so here's a thing. You guys are the experts in your field. You are the people in the trenches doing what you do every day, helping your clients. You want to make sure that when you get in front of a camera or you talk to a reporter about anything, that you are coming across as knowledgeable and relatable. You don't want to use industry jargon. Don't make it something that is not understandable to sort of the everyday person. Pretend you are, even if it is something that may be a little bit confusing, you're not going to dumb it down, but you're going to make it accessible to your mom, your uncle, anybody like that. You want to make sure that you're coming across as competent and knowledgeable, but also relatable. Okay, our next one is where to look. This can throw a lot of people when you're talking about on-camera interviews. The best sort of thing I could tell you is if you're being interviewed in person by a camera crew with a reporter, a PA, somebody who is coming to interview you, you're going to maintain eye contact with the person who's doing the interview with you, the reporter. You're not going to look into the camera. You're going to pretend that the cameraman is not there, ideally. If the reporter is in front of you asking the questions, look at them and answer the questions. Don't look into the camera. Don't try to pretend it's not there, really. If you're doing a Zoom interview, which I know we all know Zoom, you will be talking into the camera. So that is a little different, obviously, but you're used to that from all the Zooms that you've been doing all through COVID and past. So that is the only difference. If you're doing a taped Zoom interview or a live Zoom interview for a broadcast channel or network, you would do it, look straight at camera. Okay, some tips on answering reporters' questions. This is really important, and you might not have thought of this. Most people don't. Don't answer with yes or no answers to a question from a reporter. Answer in complete sentences, and try to get some of their question into your soundbite, because oftentimes they are going to be looking for the soundbite. They are going to be using that soundbite in a VO that they do, in a package that they put together that they air on the news. They're not going to be using the reporter's question in the sound bites. They're just going to be using you. So you want your answer to be able to stand alone. For instance, if a reporter is talking to you and you're in a local nonprofit and they ask you about, you know, has it been hard to raise money for the nonprofit, you know, after when everyone's going through financial issues of their own right now? Don't answer, yeah, it's been hard. That's not very helpful to them. You can say something like, you know, it's been hard in the past to get funding, but we see when people see the work we're doing, you know, X, Y, and Z, it enables them to see where their money's going. And that's helpful. That is kind of the best way to give the reporter the soundbite they're looking for, and something that they can use, which means that they will use your interview, which is also important. On that note, some more tips about what to say when you're being interviewed. People often shoot themselves in the feet or the foot they're so excited. They want to get the name of their nonprofit out there. They want to get the name of their business out there. Do not put it in every answer you use. That makes, as a former TV producer, I can tell you that makes it very hard to use your sound bites. You can say it once, you know, in one of your answers. Don't worry, they're going to get it in there. You also want to try not to ramble. A 2 or 3 sentence soundbite is the ideal length. They're looking for usable, informative, and relatable sound bites that they can use. Nothing too long that they can't cut up and use easily. How to dress on camera. Okay, well, the first rule is really try to wear solids. Brights are always good, but not anything with too much pattern. You want to stay away from checks or stripes, which tend to pixelate on air. And you don't want anything too outrageous. You want to keep the focus on you, your company, and what you're saying and what you do. So what you are wearing should relate and translate to the type of work you do. If it is the CEO of a workforce nonprofit, then you're going to be in a suit, and that makes sense. If you are, for example, I work with a nonprofit that helps veterans, takes them sailing. That's a part of NRH. And what they do when they do their interviews, they wear like a little polo with the name of their nonprofit on it, which is perfect. You get the name there without being too obvious. You get them in a little sort of polo, which they could be doing when they're sailing. You're getting the message across. You're making it look like who you are and what you represent. And it really sort of sets you up for that knowledgeable and relatable look that you're going for. And that's it for this part of the session. This is the information on where you can find me and reach me. Like I said, I work with nonprofits, entrepreneurs, small business owners looking to increase their exposure in the media, and drive volunteers, clients, and funders to them. So feel free to reach out. And now I'll toss it back to everyone so we can go to some Q&A.
Hi, thank you, everybody. I'm Allison Lafferlita. I'm the Executive Director for the Nonprofit Resource Hub, and I'm going to be sharing the questions that have been popping in with Jen and Kerry. I've also been furiously writing my own questions as you guys were talking, because I speak to nonprofits all the time, and I do want to let you know what I've been hearing, the word on the curb, so to speak. So bear with me just a moment as I get up to my first question, which is for Kerry. Kerry, many small, and Jen, if you want to chime in afterwards, if you have any additional feedback, please feel free. Kerry, many small and or new nonprofits don't have established relationships with journalists and don't know where to start. They often reach out to our office asking where they might be able to access a media contact list. Is there a place where nonprofits can access such a list, not just locally, but across the nation? Is there a fee associated with said getting that list, and about how much can they expect to pay for it?
It really depends. Like if they're going to use, there's a platform called Cision, and there are a few others where you can actually say, you tell them exactly, or you plug into the system exactly what you're looking for, and they will generate a list of reporters that cover that. I'm going to be honest with you. I think, especially if you're starting out and you don't have a lot of money, because these systems can cost thousands of dollars. One of the best things to do is to use Google. Bottom line is, if you are a nonprofit, and I'm going to use Baby Essentials of Long Island as a perfect example, which, if anybody doesn't know, that is the nonprofit that I founded, and we provide baby diapers, wipes, formula, essential products across the island. But what I can do is I can Google similar organizations and see who's covered them in the past. And names like Elisa DiStefano from, Newsday, and prior to that, News 12 will pop up, and other people, so that you can actually write these people, an email and say, oh, I noticed last year you covered so-and-so. It was such a beauty, Angels of Long Island. And it was such a beautiful article. I would, this is what I do. This is my differentiator. Can we talk? Can we discuss maybe, getting coverage for that? And the reporters love that you've actually read some of their work and that you are highly targeting them. That's what's important. That means, you've gone after that particular reporter. You're not wasting their time. They've covered similar items in the past. And Google is your friend. I also talk to people all the time that are like, oh no, I haven't read Newsday or looked online at Newsday. Well, why not? Bottom line is, go to the search bar in Newsday, see who has covered your topic in the past, and find things right there. So you may not need something as robust as Cision if you're focused on different demographic areas.
Thank you. Would you mind if, for those that may be joining us that are lucky enough to have maybe the budget for that software, would you mind putting that into the chat for us?
I can find
The
it. There's
link?
all different packages, but I can put that. I'll put.
But yeah, just put the,
Cision's
even if
information.
you share the link, that would be
Yeah,
great.
sure.
Jen, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, what I would add is, Kerry's right. You need to you can target them yourself. Signing up for something like Cision is expensive, multiple thousands a month just for use of like a seat and that. But do your research, like she said. One of the things I would add to that is, if you have media that you already like, that you follow, that sort of fits along with what you're doing, focus on that. If it's something that you follow already, and reporters that you've seen their work and you're excited about, that is a good way to sort of start to narrow your search. Start with them. You can connect with them on Instagram. You can follow them on Instagram. I would recommend it. It's a good way to see what they're doing, what they care about. You can reach out, reach out, but make sure when you reach out that it is especially targeted to what they cover. Like we touched on before, you don't want to inundate people with things that is not in their purview. You want to make sure that it's something that they cover, that their editors are looking for from them, so that you're not wasting your time or their time.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, the next question is for you, Jen and Kerry. If you want to provide feedback after Jen is done, please feel free. So a lot of nonprofit leaders don't know the importance behind appropriate media training, and some really don't have the budget for it. Can you share with us what are the most basic media training skills every nonprofit should have and invest in? And is there an affordable resource to get that most basic training?
Yeah. So you can hire a publicist on retainer, myself, Kerry, and any of the ones out there, to get coverage if you want exposure in the media. But you can also do one-offs media training with people and publicists, and that is often much more affordable. What happens for that is you just can do a half a day of training with their top executives, the people that you have picked, the couple of people that you have picked, or even the one that you have picked to be your spokesperson, who is knowledgeable and relatable on camera. They would work with the PR person and kind of sit down, get them comfortable, sort of figure out their message. The important thing you want to make sure is that your message stays the same throughout. You want to make sure you have a through line for that. They will help you craft that. You want to make sure that you get comfortable on camera. I think that if you, as the CEO or executive director of your nonprofit, are not projecting competence, if you are not projecting passion for what you're doing, even if it's because you're nervous and you're not used to being on camera, most people are in the beginning, they're not used to it. It undermines what you're doing, and it undermines your exposure and what you're hoping to get. So, they can even do, publicists can even do something as quick as, a 1 hour training, a 1 hour Zoom training with clients. And those are much more affordable even than the half day ones, and can be done over Zoom. And it's still a way to get some media training under your belt so that you are not a deer in headlights, so that you are not taken by surprise. And so that when you get those opportunities, you're ready for them.
So what I'm hearing, just to reiterate, it's really getting your messaging down pat and feeling comfortable and having an appropriate camera presence.
Yes.
But you just brought something up that I think is really interesting. What happens if you are caught off guard?
Okay. Well, that is part of during an interview, if you're caught off guard during an interview.
Yeah. Let's say, you're talking about the great work that you're doing, and a reporter says, hey, but I just read what happened with one of your employees, and you did not expect that to show up in the conversation.
That is another reason everybody needs media training, even if it is just an hour Zoom with a professional, so that you are not caught off guard. So that, well, you may get caught off guard. I should rephrase it. Everyone can get caught off guard if they're not expecting it, but you want to make sure that you know how to pivot. You need to be able to answer it and pivot to what you want to talk about. You want to be able to do that, and part of media training will give you those tools so that you're not a deer in headlights when that happens to you.
Excellent. Kerry, do you want to add to that?
Yes, because one of the things you said with being caught off guard, that's something and a reason why you need to have that crisis plan. Because say somebody did say, oh, look, this came out an hour ago. Well, let's be honest, if you're going on camera, you should know that. And if your team doesn't have a plan of how to disseminate information quickly, that's a problem. And if you have that plan in place, you are less likely to be caught off guard. Not that you'll never be caught off guard, but it will be less likely. Let's see. I think there was one other. Oh, yes. One of the things I do, because my clients have me on retainer, I include some media training in my retainer so that, especially if someone is brand new and they've never done it before, I don't want to be embarrassed with the reporters I've known for years. I want to know, as the PR person, that if I give you such and such a client, that they will present well and actually present KGG well. So it behooves me to give them pointers. And it also, it also helps to bring in reporters that you're friendly with first, so that these new clients get a chance to get their feet wet with somebody who's going to be nice and caring. You're not throwing them into CNN, So if you hire a publicist, just know that they should hold your hand. They should help you get started, and that it's just as important to them as it is to you to present well.
Excellent. Thank you. So Kerry, I'm going to go to you, and then Jen, of course, please add on if you'd like. So there's often discussion as to who should be the spokesperson for the nonprofit. I think there's always this automatic assumption it should be the executive director or the president of the board, but there are varied opinions on this. Can you shed some light on what your point of view is and who should be the selected spokesperson for the organizations?
You know what? This is interesting. If there are multiple slots for people to speak, then I don't have a problem with the president of the board speaking. But 9 times out of 10, I'm going to suggest that it's either the executive director, or what I love is the development director. Because I think it's really important that that person that's really passionate and has the relationships and is making all these connections. For some reason, I always feel that the development director has, I want to use the term stage presence, but they have that usually. So a lot of times I will suggest the development director.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, that's a great recommendation. And they do kind of, somebody said it in the last session, that they're almost trained to do sales. So they are trained to be more personable. I think it's important to have both of those people
Yes.
as spokespersons, depending on the situation. But Jen, what are your thoughts on that?
So I would add to that. I would have a client in your bag for this. I would set up and ahead of time get a client that you service, that you help in your nonprofit, who can speak to, has a great story, and can speak to what it is you do and how you've helped them. Everybody, the media cares about stories. They care about personal stories. They care about sort of that everyman and how you've helped certain people. And those are the stories that resonate. And those are the stories that you would want to book as a producer. That's what I book. So you want someone in your stable, or a few. So I would suggest ahead of time, before it comes up, so you have them ready, get one of your clients, talk to some of your clients who might be comfortable sharing their stories with the media, and being able to be interviewed as somebody who has been helped by your nonprofit and what you've done.
Thank you. We have some really great questions, so I'm just going to keep going. And I'm going to bounce around just a little bit. This one I think is very interesting and almost internal crisis management. I am a PR and marketing manager for a New York nonprofit. My supervisor is continuously asking me to send out press releases for every small thing that we do, most of them not newsworthy in my opinion. I believe it's important to save PR outreach to reporters for the topics and events that are relevant, impactful, and newsworthy. What's the best way for me to communicate to my C-suite nonprofit team that their PR approach is not efficient and therefore not effective? Any recommendations?
Oh, I have one.
Okay.
All right. So what I would say is if you have relationships with certain reporters you've worked with in the past, and ask them to write a quick email that just says, just wanted to let you know how much I appreciated your help on XYZ. I appreciate that you only come to me with things that, truly are relevant, that truly are whatever. And this way you can share it with the manager and be like, hey, look, I keep on getting all these positive things. Just so you know, this really is what, the reporter is looking for. And yes, you can't waste the reporter's time. So one of those managers who loves to send out, a press release for every little thing, you could suggest to them that you make a statement instead and post the statement, on your website, or maybe use it for a social media post. These days it's very important to differentiate what is a press release and what is a post. And you can just kind of segue them over to the posting.
Excellent. Thank you. Jen, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I would definitely go the post route. You shouldn't be going out with a press release unless you have something newsworthy to say. Otherwise, you are blocking up everybody's inboxes. You are shooting yourself in the foot, because if they get 5 emails about your company and it was with no information and no news, then they're not going to open that 6th one. So a little restraint is helpful. And I know that, like, in the C-suite, they think everything is important and newsworthy. And part of sort of our jobs is to help them, our clients, understand what actually is newsworthy, and what could get them coverage and the different angles they should be taking, because more is not always better in this. It gets lost, and then you don't have the opportunity to make news when you actually have it.
It's like when you get the 10 million emails from the shop that wants you to shop there, and then you just like forget it. And then when something really important comes up, you don't even
it
pay
turns
attention
them
to it.
off.
Yeah,
It turns them
totally.
off. They're just like us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important to maybe if there is media training, to have your C-suite execs sit in on it, so they do have an understanding for what's newsworthy, what makes it, and what's really more post-worthy for social media, because it's important for the entire team to really understand, and you want to utilize that tool appropriately.
Yes.
And
So
Jen? Oh, sorry.
yes.
Allison, I meant, if I could just quickly add, one of the things that actually is very helpful with the media training too, is having a camera present. So that way you can actually view yourself on camera and see how you come across. And then the client shouldn't perceive that to be a waste at all, because anything that's really good, you can then use that also as a social media post. You can
Great
just
idea.
use a clip.
Thank you. Next question. We are hosting a fundraising event. Hello. And my colleagues want us to try to get a local morning show to mention it on air. Do you have any tips for getting mentions like this? Kerry?
Well, this is what
Start
I
with you.
do. That's all right.
You
But
hired
also,
Kerry.
yes, so this is what I do. But a lot of times it depends. First of all, it depends on what the event is. If it's just like, I hate to say this, a run-of-the-mill gala without anything really special, you may have a better time of getting talking to the marketing department at the TV station and seeing maybe if you can have one of their reporters be the MC. It actually makes them more aware of what you're doing, and it's more likely that they'll cover you. If you're covering something really phenomenal, then yes, reach out to them. But
But who
morning
do you reach
shows,
out to, Kerry? Who's
well,
that person they reach
I'm
out
going to
to?
use the Oyster Festival as an example of an event that gets a lot of coverage. So Oyster Fest, let's be honest, there's 250,000 people. They're going to cover that event, but you still have to ask them to do it. You still have to. So again, I reach out to the marketing department. I reach out directly to the news desk. And again, like if you watch News 12 every day and you love Erin, well, guess what? You should, shoot her a text, send her an email. Oh, the story that you did on XYZ or this thing that you did is something that would really be beneficial. This is what makes our nonprofit really important. And back to what Jen said, at those galas, you have to have people who benefited from your nonprofit. So if you have those stories to share and you're doing a media alert, which you should do a media alert, which you can Google that, or we're more than happy to answer more questions offline about what a media alert is, but you literally highlight the important people that will be at your event, and you include in people that have real human interest stories. And again, the media is more apt to cover you if you have those.
So let me add to that question for Jen, because you both have very different experience. Jen, let's say a nonprofit is, there are sometimes that you'll watch a national morning news show, and they are covering something that a nonprofit is doing. It speaks more to a broader audience, maybe a nationwide audience, as opposed to a local audience. What are your recommendations if a nonprofit wanted to have some leverage with, let's say, a national morning news show?
So
I should
there
have
is a,
added that word.
yeah, there is a big difference between local and national.
Right.
You need to know the difference. You need to know what sort of if, let's say, if your nonprofit is just serving the local area, for instance, or just serving, then you want to go to the local media. If it is a national nonprofit or tied into a national nonprofit in some way, then you can go more national with it. The idea is that viewers who are watching that are from all over the US, right? So if it's something that's very local centered, then they are not going to see themselves in it, and they need to be able to see themselves in it to have a connection, because what all morning shows are trying to do is to have that sort of connection and pull in their audiences.
So Jen, I don't mean to interrupt, but just again for clarification. So let's say they are working for a national nonprofit organization. They're doing an event that speaks to everybody in the country that might be watching this particular segment. Who is it that they reach out to, if it's appropriate, at that station?
So you're going to try to do a little bit of your research. Like Kerry had mentioned about Googling, you need to do a little bit of research to see who you want to reach out to. There is always, in every newsroom, there's always an assignment desk that you can often get the number to. And if you can get somebody on the phone from the assignment desk, you want to ask them who the EPs are, executive producers are, or who the bookers are on that show. And see if they will give you any names. And then you have sort of your target that way. You also can target the anchors in terms of if it is something, if you have been following them on social media, let's say you follow, I don't know, someone from GMA on social media, and you see that they really care about education, that you'll be able to see sort of what they care about. Then you can direct your pitches to them too. So the idea is that we're all people, right? Everybody, they may be a big network news show and they be whatever, but it's run by, and the people making the decisions are people like you and me who have their own interests, who care about what's happening in the news, who have their own sort of biases one way or the other. So if you find what is a good fit, that's what's going to get you on.
Thank you. Thanks. Because I do think that that is a very big distinction between local and national.
Yeah.
And just to go back to the other person's question about their C-suite execs, sometimes they think it should go national for everything. So I want to make sure that there's very clear clarification for that. Kerry, I didn't mean to jump in, please.
No, that's okay. Allison, just so you know, the one thing you also have to remember is that if you are a local affiliate of a national nonprofit, you can't just go after national PR, because the home office or whoever the actual national nonprofit, they have those relationships, so they should have those relationships. So you do want to make sure that if you're an affiliate or branch of somebody, that you are reaching out to the heads to make sure you're not stepping on anybody's toes.
And hopefully there's a good open line of communication anyway between the national office, we'll say, in a chapter office. But that is incredibly helpful because those relationships are often established. But again, this is, we're asking questions, so everybody's really getting clarity and an understanding. I have another question up here. Hang on, please. Somebody did mention, just so you know, if anybody's not reading the chat, that a really great way to get connected with local media is through their local chamber of commerce. So that's really helpful. Everybody keep that noted, please. And the next question here is for Jen. Jen, if you were to suggest, and this, you might have already kind of covered this, so forgive me if you did. If you were to suggest top 3 talking points every MPO should be prepared with before being interviewed, what would you suggest? And I think this is actually a great question for both of you.
Top 3 talking points they should be prepared with.
Yep.
They should be prepared with number 1, like their message, what they're about, what the nonprofit is about, what they stand for, who they help, the kinds of people they help, and what they need. I think those are the 3 that you want to make sure you get across, especially for a nonprofit, right? The whole reason behind the exposure is you're trying to drive clients, you're trying to drive fundraising, you're trying to drive volunteers, you're trying to drive all of that. So, have your ask ready and your need, because people want to help. People want to do good, and you're in this industry and you know how much people care. So the people watching and reading and listening, they want to help and they want to know how they can get involved. And clients out there that might need your help, you want to make sure they know how to find you. Be very clear about that. You want to make it easy for everybody to find you.
Thank you. Kerry, we're running out of time here. Kerry, any recommendations to add to that?
You know what? I honestly, have your elevator pitch easy. Know your differentiator. What makes you different than other nonprofits that are in a similar space? Jen's 100% correct, where you need to know your needs so you could voice those. One of the other things I want to make sure to include is when you're dealing with a reporter, make sure you offer to help them.
How so? Can you give us an example?
Yeah, you can say, look, thank you for, helping me with this. Bottom line is, if you need, usually a reporter needs multiple sources within the same space to write their article. So they're not only necessarily writing just about you, they have to balance the story. I happen to have lots of business contacts within like Black-owned businesses, Hispanic-owned businesses, things like that. So I make sure that I always present to a reporter, do you need to have this be more diverse? If you need more diversity, I'm your girl. And that definitely comes in handy.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, anybody just as humans, if you're willing to help and are not entering the relationship just taking, people are more willing to go out of their way for you. We do have one other really important question here. What is the number one thing you would suggest never doing? So what does everybody want to steer clear from?
I would say never be dishonest.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's the big thing. If they can't trust you, you're done.
Absolutely.
Great.
You have to, I mean, be honest, be excited about what you're doing. I think that comes across. If you don't care about it, then why should anybody listening or watching care about it?
Authenticity is really important,
Yes.
yeah. So before we wrap it up, please, everybody take a moment to read that chat. Tommy D is doing a shameless plug for his
Go,
for his
Tommy.
podcast, but you know what? He really cares, guys, and he's
He
happy
does.
to have you on there. So take advantage of that.
And he's a
Let's
good
wrap.
interviewer.
He
He's a
is,
very good
yeah.
interviewer.
He likes to get in there. Kerry and Jen, I want to give you both an opportunity to once again connect with the people in the group to let them know how to get in touch with you, what you can do for them, and how you might be able to help them outside of this quick hour that we had together.
All right, I'm just going to say, if you need to reach me, I'm one of those people. It's 24/7. So my phone number was on the presentation. We can share that. Phone, text, feel free to text me if I don't get back to you right away. Email kerry@kggpr.com. Very easy. I'm also very Googleable. So, and I will get back to you.
And you could always call us. Jen.
That too.
Yeah, I would be happy to talk to anyone who wants to talk. You can reach me at jenolivamedia.com. You can find me Instagram at jenolivamedia.com, and you can see the work I've done with my clients and the exposure that I've gotten them nationally and now internationally. So I would be happy to talk to anybody who is looking for some help increasing their exposure and getting kind of the word out there about their nonprofit.
And looking good on camera. Well, thank
Absolutely.
you. Confidence is what, 90% of it, right?
Exactly.
So thank you both so much for your time. I'm sure that you're going to be hearing quite a bit from our visitors today. If we can help support you both, of course, we are here for you as a nonprofit resource hub. We'll be sharing everybody's links and whatnot. And if you think of something afterwards and you want to share it with the group, just let us know.
Beautiful.
Thank you both so much.
Thank
And
you.
I hope to see you again soon.
Thank
Yes,
you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody.